consistency of showing up time and time again, I mean, it's huge, right? It's just, you don't have to be the best, but if you show up every time, reliable, trust, it's all being built.
One of the things that we started doing in preparation to this is thinking about going from a marketing agency to an agentic marketing platform for contractors, which means how do we get AI to start working and functioning 24/7 and then being managed by the humans, the specialists that they know what to do.
For somebody who's thinking about, man, how do I navigate this world of AI and marketing, SEO and websites and what looks good, what doesn't, and Google and LSA and ads, like what's some just very practical advice for somebody who's feeling very overwhelmed by all that right now?
Perfect. Yeah, start with
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Partner Spotlight over here at Drip Jobs. Today we have a very special guest. We have an expert industry, a legend in the space, Mr. Danny Barrera himself, founder of Contractor Click, and many other things too. The list is long of your accomplishments, and I'm personally excited to hear about it and hear some of the stories behind it and some of the struggles you went through and overcome. So, man. Welcome, Danny. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, Eli. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited about our conversation and get to spend some time with you here today and share a little bit about what we're doing here and also spend time with Drip Jobs.
Yeah,
you guys are changing the game here, so I appreciate the opportunity to come on over.
Yeah, man. Love it. Love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's kick it off with kind of my normal question. And anybody who's ever watched this knows my first question I'm going to go to is just, man, Danny, what's the story? You came from contracting family. Your dad was a contractor. That's where that passion grew. But like, man, there's a lot in between that and where you're at now. And I'd love to hear all about it.
Yep. Well, some of my only memories and fondest memories growing up was getting on my dad's pickup truck. He was a construction concreteer, business owner in El Salvador, in Central America, and going out all to this job site. So we would go and check out the job sites or bring lunch or dinner to the crews. And I remember, it pretty much just play with my brothers in the dirt right around the construction sites and upbringing. That was pretty much what I remember the times with my father. I didn't get to see him since I was 11 years old because we went into ministry. So he sold his businesses, the homes, and then our family became missionary. And we ended up coming to the United States. He went back to El Salvador in one of those trips, and we were processing our religious visas. And, he could not come back into the U.S. So he was not allowed to come back. And my mom said, hey, what should we do? He happened to just decide to stay back in El Salvador. So he's now with the Lord. And I haven't gotten in terms of like into the industry, working in construction. I didn't get the chance to do that. My brothers did. But that was my upbringing. It's in contracting, and fast forward, I decided to go into technology. Ended up working at Fox News Channel in New York City, and as an IT analyst, out of all things.
Yeah.
And I thought I would be a musician. Yeah. But the Lord had different plans for me. And ultimately, in Fox News, I discovered this world called e-commerce. And I saw someone that was being interviewed in the Fox Business Network. It was launching at the time, FBN. And he was talking about, launching e-commerce for like pet stores and stuff like that. And I'm like, that guy sounds interesting. He looks relaxed. Let me go and talk to him. And I call him on the side. I'm like, what? Hey, that sounds interesting. How can I get started? Because that was the whole show.
Yeah.
He gave me a couple of tips. He's like, you got to find some partners. You got to get your business license. Back in the day, doing e-commerce, you had to jump through a lot of hoops in order to get it done. Today, my son has 2 e-commerce stores, Shopify. You could pretty much be up and running in 30 minutes. It took me a long time just to get a credit card processor integrated into my system. But anyways, long story short, a lot of people started asking me, do you do websites? Oh, you're doing stuff online. Can you help me out? And that's how my digital marketing experience got started. And, after that, I went fully into the agency, which I ended up quitting Fox News, got into the agency world, moved from New York to Florida. And in Florida, I went through a divorce. I went through a reinvention process. And those were some of the most revealing and empowering times of my life, looking back at it. I really started back from ground zero. I mean, I found myself sleeping in my car, didn't have a place to bring my kids to when I had them every other weekend. So I would crash at my friends' places. I had 2 friends, and I would hop over every other week from one to the next. I'm like, guys, I just need to come down for the weekend. I got my kids. Can you help me out? And anyways, looking back, it just gave me a spark and reignited a spark for me to really take the agency business seriously. And I found some help and mentorship. And one of my mentors prompted is like, hey, you know how to do digital marketing. You're good at what you do. You've done a lot of freelance work, etc. But who do you want to serve? And through that discovery process, I said, I don't want to work with attorneys, dental offices, etc. My father was in the construction industry, concrete as a whole, and that sparked this whole unpacked just a whole discovery of getting into the concrete industry. So we took Concrete Marketing Crew from 0 clients to, thank God, we served over 300 clients just in that brand alone. And God has done some incredible things by giving us the runway to serve the concrete industry, which became decorative concrete and concrete coatings. And as we started serving more clients would ask us, do you do remodeling, painting? Can you market, outdoor living? Are you just doing concrete? And we saw an incredible opportunity. And it was through a lot of prayer. And we made the decision at the time to just rebrand from Concrete Marketing Crew to Contractor Click. We saw what the future was that was in the horizon with the disruption of AI and everything, and it's exciting. Now we're here. Now look at us. I'm being interviewed by Drip Jobs out of all things, So that's in a nutshell. That is the background. My wife Maddie, I remarried. By the time I relaunched Concrete Marketing Crew, I met this beautiful woman. She is the love of my life and my biggest supporter, Maddie. So she also comes from the trades. Her parents, just growing up, and we're like, how do we serve this? Because we're serving our dads, who our dads were, and that's the passion, and that's why we do what we do here.
Yeah, love it, man. That's powerful. There's a lot of stuff there. So, one, clearly the Lord is working through you and your story, and just just serving, right?
Yeah.
But it'll kind of taking a step back too. That's just from a childhood alone, like that's a crazy. Your dad being in El Salvador, you being in the U.S. I mean, the grit that comes from that. I mean, man, I can't even imagine, like, what was that like, being separated and being a country apart, and kind of not knowing like, all right, is my dad gonna make it over to the US? I mean,
I know,
dude, what did that instill in you, man? Like, surely there were some some really strong lessons in there, right?
Totally. Yeah. I think for one of the things is like, I have 2 brothers, and my 2 brothers, my mom sat us down, and she was like, and I was probably 11 years old, maybe 12, closer to 12. And she's like, guys, like, I'm going to do what I can do, but I need you guys to go and find something to do. Like, so we'd clean houses at nighttime, offices, and like, so we learned how to work from an early age.
Yeah.
And that was one of the best gifts that I got. Now, when I was going through it, as a young boy, I would play soccer. I would get into school activities, but afterwards there would always be something else. And we would also serve in church, like seeking God and just being in a congregation never stopped. And I just thinking back on those times, man, everything happens for a reason, right? And learning how to serve others. I think, being in that position, it wasn't as bad because we were always surrounded by people of faith, and I played drums. I was in the music and worship ministry, and we'd have a lot of fun. But the moments that I would slow down and think about it, it was very painful, and it just gave me the grit. And here's something I'll share with you. There's one prayer that, when I look at the way that I wanted that prayer to be answered, was not answering the way that I expected it. And that prayer was like, God, I know you're out there, and I know I'll be able to see my father back again, right? And man, those were my teen years, and that prayer was not answered. And so I went through a rebellious phase. By the time I was graduating high school, I'm like, and I separated as much as I could from the Lord. And there's always a path and a way. And I got married young, and I had kids by the time I was 20. And, I was trying to fill the gap and the needs. And the moments that I started to find friction for myself, I started reflecting it, because I thought, like, hey, if I was like, in my teen years, I said, if I was in my dad's shoes, I would jump through whatever walls or hoops I needed to in order to see my kids again. And I was judging him from that position. But as I went through divorce myself, I started realizing, like, man, it's not that easy. Like, it's just, I could imagine. And I started learning how to forgive myself, forgive him, and just the entire thing, and find grace for that entire journey. And then, the funny thing is that God has a way of working through situations, because by the time I was more so, I was just about done with my divorce. It's the time that I started reconnecting with my father. And because at the time, he continued in ministry, he stopped doing ministry, going back, etc. But he always found a way to serve the Lord, and he knew that was his calling. And I would judge him. I said, you spend more time with other people than you spend with us, your family, like your kids. So it was an interesting level of pain that I felt and I was going through. But as I started reconnecting with him, and I remember I was looking out, I said, Dad, and this is when I had Concrete Marketing Crew, and it was running. I said, Dad, this is kind of going well here. I would love to go back to El Salvador. I still didn't have a green card. I had a working permit. And I said, Dad, why don't we start something out? Like, he's like, my son, I'm done building businesses. I'm now, just leading a church, and this is my calling, and this is what I'm going to do. And my thinking was like, man, I'm going to go back to El Salvador, just build real estate portfolios, and like left and right. I got a business that's starting to pick up steam. And anyways, he said, 2 months before he went with the Lord, I remember this vividly. I'm looking out the window, and I said, man, I can't wait for us to reconnect. I was working on my green card. And he's like, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to start seeking the Lord more and more now. He's like, I've been able to see your brother's land. I see you guys as my arrows, and I've thrown you as far as I could. But he said, I'm not going to be able to see you land.
Wow.
And that one right there, just when I think about the times that I've had hardships in business and life, in my relationships with my children, I'm like, I'm just getting started. I'm still in the journey.
Yeah.
I'm flowing and I'm moving forward. And I remember that. And anytime I go through this, the seasons of business and, valleys and
Mhm.
things are just not gaining the traction that I hope for. I remember that message vividly.
Mhm.
And now what God is doing in my life and in my family. I mean, my son is working with me now and he's closing deals and he's doing his thing. But, I get to think about all the things that perhaps I didn't have present
Mhm.
when I was their age. And it's not about the money; it's about the presence
Mhm.
and the empowerment and showing them, hey, this is what it's like, to grow up with the Lord. And that led me back into finding God at a
Mhm.
deeper level,
Mhm.
at a level that was above the surface, reading the Bible and just a prayer level.
Mhm.
So that started that right there. I was running Concrete Marketing Crew. I was already,
Mhm.
gaining steam. It was rolling.
Mhm.
My financial needs were met at that point in time.
Mhm.
And then, like 2 months later, I found myself crying in my room, resenting God one more time because I'm like, dude, I couldn't travel back to El Salvador. I watched the entire funeral and the casket being brought down on a Facebook Live.
Wow.
Thank God for technology.
Yeah. No
So
kidding.
that was it. That was the journey there.
Jeez, man, that's cool. That is wild. And then just, I mean, that probably hit hard, hit home, hit hard, so hard when he said that to you 2 months prior,
two
right?
months prior.
2 months prior, 2 months prior, and I mean, you know, what did he know, right? Like what had the Lord put on his heart to tell you
Yes.
that you didn't know at the time? And then, later on down the road, you would eventually find out why, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is what is just mind blowing to me right there. In that part of the story, that's amazing. Yeah. So, you know, that kind of leads me into thinking about the leadership that you have now, right? Like the leadership to your family, the leadership to your kids, right? Because, you know, there's definitely a correlation between, people having a present dad, a present father figure, and what they do later in life and things like that. How do you think that affects like your leadership style now, to whether it's your own family, to your employees? Because running a business is, I mean, it's leadership. That's all it is, right? And when you're at the top of the pyramid, right? There's a few different ways to go. I think you probably fall into the, um, lead by serving,
Mhm.
kind of scenario. But how has that experience growing up and kids and things like that affected your leadership style now that you have, in your own personal life and business?
Yeah. So I made a commitment to become the best that I could be for myself first, and then that I could be that for my children. And I can tell you when I went through divorce, I was not the best example. Like I decided to like, oh my gosh, like this is what's happening here in my past relationship, and I'm just gonna kind of separate myself. So for the first couple of months, it was really rough.
Mhm.
And as I started discovering, like, dude, I'm doing the same thing that I felt like as a child. Like I was reliving kind of the same thing, like abandonment. And I'm recreating that. And that just, it was a wake up moment for me. It was like, it's
Mhm.
literally the reinvention moment. And God put so many incredible people. Like I had a client, I was doing SEO for him, like website development, SEO at a
Mhm.
national level,
Mhm.
and he was more in the mergers and acquisitions of businesses. And he was right here in Fort Lauderdale. And the thing is, I had my daughter and my son with me on Friday after school. I picked them up,
Mhm.
and then I was shooting some content with him,
Mhm.
and he asked my kids, he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing this weekend?" He's like, "I don't know. Where are you guys going?" "I don't know. Like my dad, I think we're gonna sleep at my friend's house." So, anyways, this guy ended up finding out that I didn't have a place,
Uh-huh.
and he came back to me. He's like, "I know you don't have a place. Here's my keys. Figure out what you need to, and that you can stay here for some time. Waterfront
Wow.
property." And like, dude, that was like, like King David talks about, like, as I go through the valley,
Mhm.
right, I have no fear. But man, in that valley, I just started finding a taste like in a different way, very refreshing. And those were the moments where I started writing things down of like what life would be like for me. And I knew some of those things. Like I was not aware of like personal development and like envisioning things and like, writing down a vision for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I started taking it seriously. And I
Yeah.
started seeing myself like, okay, God, where do you want to work in me right now? I'm going through a lot of emotional pain and turmoil. And like, I started rewriting that vision in the best way I could understand it at the point in time. And what would the business look like?
Mm.
How would I be showing up for my children? Like I have a place that I'm proud of bringing my children to. Hey, I found myself healed where I'm and started just almost like praying over the situation, because what I found out is through that, it's how I started reflecting my kids' life. Now, did I get it 100% right in the process? No. Going through divorce it's like a roller coaster for anyone that's been through divorce or a tough separation with children.
Mm-hmm.
It's this constant battle. But what I've learned, like as I was going through it, is the constant progression of just showing up and looking back. It's I as a leader, that is a word that it's great to call yourself a leader. It's all high five to you, but
Mm-hmm.
the actual weight that gets carried through that, like, hey, my kids are watching me, how I behave here, how I respond to their mother, how I treat them,
Mm-hmm.
what I say about when they're not present. Hey, they do the same how I operate in business. Hey, when I've had to do the right things and they've been really tough things to do, like to hold off my agreement, my word, like how
Mm-hmm.
am I going to show up, with dignity? All of those things just come back to the same core foundation. So I went through this training called Warrior, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the first values that I learned was to stop fucking lying. Stop lying to yourself, stop lying to other people, and live by the truth. And sometimes that is the ability for you to express and say what you really mean to say.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that it was really hard is to really tell my kids, hey, I'm no longer with your mother.
Mm.
Like we're separated. We're not coming back together.
Yeah.
Because remember, so I mean, it's been a growing process, and Eli, I wish I could tell you I am the leader that I am. Like, it, it's a constant growth process. I don't
Mm.
think I've gotten there yet. I'm still flying, in the arrow.
Yeah.
I'm still progressing, but in terms of how that's impacted my life as a leader, um, the way I see from my team and how they respond is they're watching. They're watching how I show up. They're watching if I'm living with my core values or if I'm being double faced.
Yeah.
And but for me, it's I like to see it in a different light these days. I don't put myself under this immense pressure that I have to be someone I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm growing into my bigger and better future, and God's calling for my life is just being reflected through every single day experience, and I do it as best as I can. Some days I show up 1,000%, everything is so dialed in, but what I've learned is the consistency factor and just
Mm.
showing up, beat up, showing up great, showing up okay, showing up 100%, but just showing up steadily. And that's been one of the biggest things here. And for my children, I've learned to how to talk to them and say, hey guys, today is not my best day.
Mm.
Like I'm struggling with this area. Some of the best conversations I've had with my daughter, teenage girl,
Mm-hmm.
Lily, she's incredible. Have been like, hey Lily, can I share something? I'm not doing too well here. Can I get like, and just putting my guard down and having those conversations, because I wish I would have had that experience for myself growing up.
Yeah.
So that's how it's reflected here um, in my journey.
Love it, man. That's awesome. Yeah, and there are so many good things in there. Like I love also I love that you said like, man, I just started writing stuff down, right? I just started
Yeah,
writing things
yeah,
down about me, about my business, about vision. I mean, that was like your kind of your first sort of self-analysis slash vision board, right? Like that was kind of
exactly,
and you didn't even realize it at the time,
exactly, yeah, yeah.
that's awesome. And then having those real conversations, whether it's with your peers, your employees, your kids, your family, and just hey, I'm showing up, I'm here, but man, I'm struggling with this. And that consistency, that long game consistency of showing up time and time again, it's huge. I mean, it's huge, right? It's just, yeah, you don't have to be the best, but if you show up every time, reliable, trust, it's all being built, right? So that's amazing. I love it. So at what point now, so your business is doing well, right? You're flowing, you've got clients, you're doing stuff, you're shooting content for people, kind of like you were saying. So Contractor Click. So, a rebrand, first of all, kind of, right? That's a big deal for most businesses, right? If you've never gone through a rebrand, like it's a whole thing, when did you decide to kind of rebrand to Contractor Click? Sort of what was that moment? And then like, what can you give somebody who might be thinking about doing the same thing? Kind of just a heads up for them.
Yep. So it was part of the conversation started out at a mastermind that my wife and I were attending. And it was like, hey, let's think about your bigger future. And like, what are you building? And what are the constraints that are stopping you? And look, the majority of our clients are still in concrete coatings. In our portfolio of clients that we serve, like it's we haven't abandoned it. It's just a strategic rebrand. But in reality, is there was a ceiling in terms of the market and the capacity. It's like you look at painters versus concrete contractors. You probably have maybe 7 or 10 times more of the market viability for us to reach more clients. Number one. Number two is what are the other opportunities if we were to venture with other partnerships, or if we were to develop ourselves into a bigger brand and acquire other businesses? Like, what would that look like? Would Concrete Marketing Crew be the most suitable, brand? So we started thinking about those things. So, hey, and part of the journey has been to how do we grow into serve more people? And we noticed that it's like, okay, we've accomplished this here. We're by no means the best ever created, but we're discovering ourselves, what we're good at, etc. And the second thing that I started noticing is what is the real future of the marketing industry? Now, I started to see AI come into the mix, and this was a couple of years ago. It's not like, ChatGPT days where everyone thought like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. It's going to replace everything. No, I'm talking about like long tail thinking of how AI would be disrupting our industry. That was one thing. So I didn't want to have the word marketing in it. I knew we wanted to become a platform, and that platform would be able to serve clients into their bigger and better future through marketing, through lead generation, right? Through client acquisition. So that's what we thought about in terms of like, what do we want this brand to represent? And we want to serve clients into their bigger and better future. So the thinking there was part of that. It's like, okay, let's look at how are we holding ourselves back? What are those strategic things that we need to think about for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, for the next 10-year roadmap? And some of those things are starting to come true in terms of the rebrand, but it was rough. The rebrand was not an easy one. There were some clients that thought like we would go back. There were some competitors that would talk negatively about us in the industry and said, how those guys don't do this anymore, so they're not specialists in in this industry, AYC. And I really don't pay attention to that. But when you start looking at the churn and the motives of churn and the conversations and the dialogues, for a moment I reconsidered. I'm like, should I go back? And another thing, as a marketing agency, if any marketers are listening to this, staying niche down is the way to go. So picking out a niche that you can go to long tail and that suits your lifestyle, your needs, and your vision, it's extremely important. But I've learned we were too narrow in concrete, and going broad increase our cost of acquisition. So to acquire a client would be, but on the upside, man, we just open ourselves up. And we've gone from serving like 2 different verticals to now we have about a dozen different verticals: home improvement, home service. Awesome. And yeah, we've been able to test out different strategies for our clients. We've been able to track $600 million worth of revenue attributed to our digital marketing efforts.
Nice.
I think that we would be getting closer to $1 billion with the non-attributed, because we only started tracking this a couple of years ago. And, so that's on the rebrand conversation.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Well, and that was some really good, just like operational kind of tips there, right? Like, okay, think about, what do we want the business to actually be? What do we want it to be in 3, 5, 10 years?
Yeah.
I mean, some people aren't even thinking about next year, what they want the business to be. That's crazy to me, right? Not having those goals, those long-term goals, even in your own personal life, right? Yeah. I personally tell everybody that asks me, any questions about goals and stuff, it's like, man, plan it out. Like, look at where you want to be. Because if you're a ship going and there's nothing on the horizon, you're just sailing off into the horizon with no end in sight. Right. You'll eventually run out of food, water, or fuel, and the ship's going to sink. Right. So love that, like thinking through that business and thinking about those different areas and kind of what you want it to grow into. And is the rebrand the right fit? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It kind of depends on what you discover in that self-discovery, first. Right. Yeah. So let's talk about Contractor Click for a second on that side of the house. You've talked about a little bit about what you guys do, right? But like, first of all, I like this question. One, what's your goal of Contractor Click? Because I think I know the answer, but I'll see. But what's your goal of Contractor Click? And then, on that kind of broad spectrum, 6 different verticals, we've talked about client acquisition and stuff like that, but really, kind of what's like the full range and suite that Contractor Click can do for somebody.
Yeah. Okay. So this year we want to serve 1,000 clients into their bigger and better future. That's the goal for 2026.
Love it.
God willing, we'll hit those targets. We're on track to be able to do that. But it is a big challenge for us. That there's a lot of volatility happening in the marketing agency world, whether agencies like to admit it or not. But it's been disrupted right now. And one of the things that we started doing in preparation to this is thinking about going from a marketing agency to an agentic marketing platform for contractors, which means, how do we get AI to start working and functioning 24/7 and then being managed by the humans, the specialists that they know what to do? We'll be able to multiply the effort. So our teams right now, they're leveraging our systems. By the end of this year, we're going to have a self-serve platform that clients can go in. Wow. They can start managing and owning their own marketing channels and be able to do it. Google Ads, Facebook Ads, their SEO, AEO, their website optimization. So imagine having that program with $600 million worth of data behind it. Yeah. So that is, and at that point in time, we're looking for the next 5 years is to be able to serve 100,000 contractors, God willing. That is a big mission. It's an incredible. It's bigger than, and the way we think about it is when Elon Musk started to think about, hey, SpaceX, we're gonna take off here, and people were like, dude, you're not gonna be able to do it. But I think with some grit and some faith and a good strategic plan and strategic partners, we can achieve that. But that's on the long tail, is how do we serve more people with technology? And especially I think about, again, it goes back to like where I grew up, what I experienced from my dad when he was contracting, and I know this is back in the day in Central America, we moved homes just about every other year because some years were great, incredible projects, roadmaps. I mean, he was building communities, etc. And then other years were like, dude, guys, we're going to the public school system here in El Salvador. So that was pretty rough back then. Yeah. You don't want to send your kids there, pretty much, kind of thing. But anyways, like I remember, how do we serve someone like that, and then take something that I would have to charge from a marketing agency perspective, $2,500, $3,500, and make it accessible to the small contractor? How can I do that? So that's in our mind, that's in our process. And something interesting we're doing right now, which is excellent, is instead of going upstream in our retainers, we're bringing our retainers down. And the closer we get to that 1,000 mark, we're going to have some incredible pricing for our clients, thanks to the breakthroughs in technology and what our systems can do. So, we're passing the savings over to our clients with the platform. In terms of what we do right now, why people hire us, they want to make their phone ring. Facebook ads, we turn on the ads within 72 hours. They start generating leads. They got to have a system in place like drip jobs. Otherwise, it will not work on the Facebook ads world. That's a given. Just don't even try it without drip jobs, right?
Yeah.
But we help our clients fine tune their conversion process as well. You get X amount of leads. How are you turning them into appointments, qualified estimates? How are you presenting yourselves to the homeowners? And how do you improve the closing percentages? And we also do local SEO, AI search optimization, web design, Google Ads. And we're starting to test out with a couple of other platforms for lead generation. But it's still in the testing phase. So we're branching out from just the particulars there. Yeah.
Love it. So what do you guys, are you experimenting or branching out with, getting placement like in ChatGPT in places like that? What are you guys doing there? Or
absolutely.
You can keep that in the box.
No, so ChatGPT, you're going to find out that because it's been marketed so much, and there's been a lot of buzz, the CPMs are not cheaper than Facebook ads. Also, the quality of the lead from a PPC lead generated from ChatGPT ads for a local business, it's not superior than a Google lead.
Okay,
that's very interesting.
It is
very interesting.
Yeah.
And look, we take full ownership for this. Again, we're still experimenting because we're testing different landing pages. We're testing out whether to have, a chat widget that answers all the questions, because we want to continue that, zero click and just engagement dialogue. We're testing out, do we have the good old Google Ads landing page? Do we do a multi-step? So we're testing those things out. But I can tell you, just from the broad overview, don't expect it to be this $2 lead for a home remodeling or a repaint job. Don't expect that. It's anyone telling you that is lying. It just doesn't work. But you have other channels as well. So we're constantly testing out, something we've done in the past in TikTok ads. And I do think that there's a market and opportunity there for scaling for regional brands. Not so much for the local contractors at scale. And what I mean is, if you only have one location, you might not have enough traction there. We're doubling down on YouTube ads and mastering that. There's a recipe for that. And I can tell you the way you sell home improvement, very different than home service. So we're testing out those variables as well. Our goal is to have our platform be able to decipher how do we optimize for each different vertical. So we still to get more data on that. The specific channels.
Awesome. A lot of interesting stuff in there. What you just said, we could be here a long time talking about it. But just, dude, one thing that you said there, thinking about, this is like my brain thinking about it, where you said you're going to have your platform set up to where you can go in, self-serve your different channels, self-serve your different ads, and I'm probably guessing make tweaks and changes and things like that as well in there. That's wild. And that's definitely turning the model on its head a little bit, right? I mean, so that's very interesting. I'll be excited when that comes out. So
totally. I'll give you the first. The client facing, we're going to be alpha testing the client facing experience in a couple of months, and then we're going to roll it out to beta testing, from cold traffic, and then scale it out from there. But for sure, it's what's different from this than what we've tested out in terms of solutions out there is you get a lot of solutions and they're great. They have to diversify in terms of the portfolios. What we have and what we've gathered is all these recipes that really work by niches and vertical. And what happens as a byproduct of that is we've had our SOPs, our processes, et cetera, our organizational, and the workflows that we've had in order to get clients results. And we started feeding this into AI and started to see, how do we not just launch, get clients results, but iterate and optimize for that specific individual, just as a media buyer would, or better, even better, because it's happening in real time.
Yeah.
And the results are pretty amazing right now. Now, what this is going to do in the long term is, you see, for that business owner out there that's wondering, like, hey, I'm too small to afford, this company wants to charge me $5,000 a month, and yeah, they're going to bring you jobs and all of that, but they want to try the platforms in itself. This is a great way to get started. And what we have found as well is, like, well, for some of our clients, is like they're putting some of their team members to use the platform right now internally. And what this is doing is, sometimes I believe in the future, the businesses are probably going to have someone in-house that's going to be managing their entire marketing suite because of AI. But sometimes what I'm thinking about is, like, how do we make this so easy that anyone can go in there and start utilizing it? So that's something that we're discovering in the process right now. It's exciting. It's definitely going to change the game, and it's going to replace our agency as a whole in the next. For sure.
Yeah. Because I've still yet to come across a really good platform that focuses on, creating the content, running the ads. Like, that's very, like you said, anybody can hop in there and use it, right? That still doesn't really exist that well, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of them are still just dashboard dump. A lot of it's still overly complicated for people to use.
Too complicated.
That is, there's not something that quite exists out there yet that does it. There's a lot, don't get me wrong. And and with AI, there's a lot, but it's also not tested as well too, right? That's the thing, is stuff's just, new platforms are coming up left and right. Well, I mean, there's not much history behind it. They haven't had years and years and years and years of testing.
Yeah. Like, an example of this is, what the biggest problem with these platforms is there's always a disconnect, right? So a brand wants to represent themselves in a specific way. Website looks one way. The landing page that's by AI looks a completely different way. Their ads look completely off. There's such a disconnect. So we're coming to solve that pretty aggressively. So that's the main thing, is how do we connect all the dots? Hence Contractor Click. We want our clients to control all of their clicks from one platform.
Love it. Game changer. All right, Danny, last thing, and then we'll zip it up. But man, for somebody, I know it's mid-year, right? So you should have been thinking about this a long time ago. But for somebody who's thinking about, man, how do I navigate this world of AI and marketing and SEO and websites, and what looks good, what doesn't, and Google and LSA and ads, like, what's some just very practical advice for somebody who's feeling very overwhelmed by all that right now?
Perfect. Start with the foundations. That, like, if you're overwhelmed, that's probably because you're listening to a lot of information, and there might be a lot of conflicting or a lot of disconnects all over the place. And I see that happening, right? So you're going to hear a lot of opinions. And it's one thing is to hear people's opinions about what you should do. Then you go to a Facebook group and you ask people, and then you got a $10 million owner telling you to do one thing, and a $100,000 owner telling you, don't try this. It's a waste of time, money, energy, etc. You want to start with the offline stuff first. Do not get to troubleshooting online until you have your foundations in place. And I would say that includes your CRM. That includes drip jobs in the mix. Why is that? It's because if you start adding all these different channels and you don't have the foundation set up, no amount of marketing is going to fix that pipeline conversion, right? So you want to have the basics in place. Do you have a brand in place, right? Are you defining your vision, mission, core values? How do you want your brand voice to be represented? And sometimes that sounds a little bit airy, but think about it. How do you want customers to perceive your business? I hear a lot of business owners say, Danny, I want the luxury clients. I want the luxury clients. You're going to love this, Eli.
Okay.
You go to their website, you go to their Facebook, you're looking at pictures that you can barely see what it's in there. Like, oh my gosh, who took these pictures with an iPhone from 4 years ago? So dark, so ugly. I mean, so think about the experience that you want to create. Start getting consistency with that. So start with the organic right now, the branding, truck wraps, all of those things. Once you have that in place, you start thinking about, is my own online branding established? What does that include? Your website, your website name. You have your Google business profile. That is a foundational thing. In the world of AI, Google's shift in their search system is going to heavily rely on those two things, your website and your Google business profile. The third thing is, are you actively getting reviews in every directory out there outside of Google? BBB.org, you got the Yelps, you got Yellow Pages, Home Advisor. That is becoming more important. Does the community tag you inside of the Facebook community groups? That is becoming very important. So get out there and start posting content on your own. And when you have yourself in a position where you're starting to gain some traction, but you feel like, hey, I've done the best I can, and now I need a professional to help me ramp it up. That's when you come in and you say, let me reach out to some marketing players. And I know you guys have a directory of all your vetted partners. If you feel like Contractor Click can add value to your life and your business, you can visit contractor.click. I would recommend you check out other marketing partners as well. But I would say the biggest thing is, if you don't have the foundations ready, it's going to be hard to gain traction just plugging you into the online world and take it from there.
Yeah. Amazing advice, man. I hope take notes on that. That was like a little mini masterclass on how to set yourself up for success there. That was amazing. Yeah. Foundation work, systems in place, and then get plugged in. So amazing. I love it. Love it. Danny, thank you for that. Thank you for that golden nugget. Thank you for the time today, man. I appreciate it. It was amazing hearing your story. Amazing testimony of just the Lord working in your life and having a plan for you and your family and your business and what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. So thank you for blessing us with that today, man. I appreciate it so much. And, we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you so much, Eli. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.